Welcome to the MPW Digital Postgame Show. I'm Chase Parham. Sorry for the little bit of delay there. We had some stuff going on, but got that taken care of. And observations are up on the site at rebelgrove.com. I will be with you here for a little while. So we're trying to watch Alabama and Tennessee. The Vols all over the Crimson Tide right now, 28-10 in that one going on CBS right now. So be with you for a little bit. Ole Miss 48, Auburn 34. You guys probably had some tense moments. Probably had some frustration there as tackling not very good. Auburn had some opportunities to make that even closer than it was. Uh, Interesting game in a couple different ways. So we'll get into it in over the course of the next couple hours. We'll take your calls. We'll talk to Neil. We'll talk to Jeffrey. We'll talk to Brian as well. Yeah, they do. They need a bye week, but it's not coming. LSU up next. Ole Miss hopes that's not symmetry, as the Rebels are 7-0 for the second time since 1962. The other was in 2014. You know, that 7-0 2014 team went to Baton Rouge and lost. LSU up next for Ole Miss, 2:30 next Saturday in that one there in Baton Rouge. So that's coming up next. But we'll talk about Auburn today. Again, 48-34. Rebels get their first win, I guess, at home against Auburn since 2012. Beat them in 2015 over there with Chad Kelly and Ole Miss in that one. So now Lane Kiffin has beaten every SEC West team except for Alabama. The Tide coming to Oxford on November 12th. And as we said, they've got their hands completely full right now with Tennessee. I'm going to call Brian in just a couple minutes. Jeffrey was trying to get back to the condo. He was at the game today. Brian was at the game today. We'll obviously talk to Neil when he gets done with some of the coverage there. I am finding Alabama on TV right now, and then we will call Brian in just a couple minutes. What are you guys up to? Did you go to the game? Are you hanging in? Did everybody leave at the delay? Did you stay to the bitter end? Are you watching on your phone or on the drive right now? I went until halftime and then left, as I typically have doing, just to kind of get a feel for things. Crowd was great. It was full. The powder blue seemed to kind of pop, and for a one-color thing, which Ole Miss has been doing for a few years now, I thought that everything went really well from a crowd standpoint. Now, concessions were bad. We can get into some of those points of sale stuff, but as far as the actual fan base and what they can control, thought Ole Miss did a really nice job with that today from what I saw. Like I said, I stayed until halftime and then left to get everything set up and work from home the rest of the way. Yeah, if you're Ole Miss, best case scenario, if you're trying to win the SEC West, you can obviously beat Alabama outright, but you would be cheering for Tennessee today. There'd be no reason not to. Cheer for Tennessee today. Try to get Alabama a second loss, and that even gives you one. Gives you a little bit of cushion. Yeah, I was watching BYU Arkansas for a minute just because, and then once I realized I don't know why I'm doing this, let's switch over to Alabama and Tennessee. We did that, and then all good from there. No, there was lightning around the place, but it there was no storm or anything. I mean, if you were not here, there was no actual inclement weather going on. I think there is another cell coming, so hopefully it does not pop our power out or have any issues. But for the most part, everything's fine. So again, I'm going to call Brian in a second, and then we're going to talk to him. We'll talk to Jeffrey when he's available. Neil, I've got the stats page up. Ole Miss rushes for 448 yards today. 3 different guys go over the 100-yard mark. Judkins with the 4th 100-yard game of his career. They've only played 7. He had 98 in the other one. As we've talked about, Deuce McAllister's career record very much in play from a career standpoint. 14 is the record. Judkins now already at 4 through 7 games of his career. So let's see. Let's get Brian on the line. Yeah, the 3-man front was a struggle today for sure. There's no doubt about that. It was a problem. They just were trying to force third downs and then make Ashford beat them on third down. I felt like that was the goal today. I'll ask Jeffrey about that in a little while. Tyler, huge thank you, huge super chat there. Really appreciate you, my man. Says this game feels bigger than Kentucky. Might be recency bias, but Auburn's been a problem for a very long time, beating good Ole Miss teams. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Auburn is not as good as Kentucky, but I do understand from the standpoint of just what it means psychologically to kind of get the win over Auburn, to do that kind of thing. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I understand why fans think that. I mean, look, Like I said, I was told a couple weeks ago it was one of the most expensive hotel weekends in Ole Miss history. Well, that happens because Auburn is a name team. It was a good weekend for a couple different reasons. You know, Kentucky still doesn't have quite that same feeling when you see that they're the home game on the schedule. Auburn does there, and yeah, it was a huge win. I mean, it was a game that shows you just how far Lane has taken the program as to all that crap we talk about. And look, I'm much worse about it than Neil of, hey, this, and that, and they haven't beaten this team since then and whatever. This is kind of a new Ole Miss in a lot of ways. I'm not doing the new normal thing. I'm not doing a freeze thing, but none of that stuff applies here. Ole Miss now, I mean, we're still keep doing the math. We keep running the numbers up. They're 18-3 in their last 21 games. 18-3 in their last 21. I mean, think about that. That is it's pretty heady, significant stuff there. So I mean, you can't minimize what that means for this program at all. Yeah, Auburn defensively is pretty talented. I mean, if we're just being completely honest, I thought Auburn defensively was pretty good. Now Ole Miss ran all over them, and they're a catastrophe as far as scheme and just how they play. Ole Miss gets up 21-0, kind of lets them back into it. But look, it's a win. A win is a win. It's 7-0, still undefeated. Again, only the second time since 1962 that the program has been 7-0. Calling Brian now. So give me 1 second, guys. It's a little loud, I think, probably coming
Yeah, I
from
can
your
hear you.
end.
Okay.
So, are you in the Grove? What are we doing?
We just walked under a large tree outside the Grove to get away. But yeah, I just walked up to the Grove, um, to my family's tent, and so we're just hanging out after the delay.
So let's get right into it. I won't keep you too terribly long. But Ole Miss 7-0. They head to Baton Rouge. I was just telling the stream a second ago. By the way, Jonathan Bass, thank you for the super chat. That's 18-3 now in the last 21. Somebody said in the thread, Lane Kiffin has killed the WAOM, the We Are Ole Miss. You know, it's one of those deals where we come into this game, everybody was watching. If you had to worry about the game, it was the name on the helmet. It was the brands and the fact that Auburn had beaten Ole Miss so much over the last, I mean, really 60 years if we go back to there, but especially in recent history as well. It's just not a game Ole Miss typically wins. And Auburn made it close. Auburn probably made some people nervous a little bit, but Ole Miss went start to finish as the better football team, the better coached football team, the more mentally stable football team, and they rushed for 448 yards. And I'm watching the stream here, and everybody's happy, everybody's pumped up, but everybody's also kind of looking ahead. We talked about it last week. It's just amazing how sort of the culture has changed, and you get a 2 touchdown win over Auburn to go to 7-0. And really, the message from the fan base to this point is, again, I'm reading the stream, is okay, what's next?
And I think part of that is the schedule and the way this entire year set up, because it is very unique, right? I mean, we talked about this the last couple of weeks. I mean, Ole Miss is going to enter the fourth week of October with a redshirt freshman quarterback that hasn't played a true road game. And so I think for these first 6, 7 games, it's kind of just like, yeah, this is, it's looked fine, it's looked whatever, but like with what's coming, it feels like they're picking nits. But everything you just outlined is absolutely correct. I mean, they're 18-3 in their last 21 games. I mean, that's rarefied air that not a lot of programs get to. And again, you can kind of revert back to the similar things we talked about last week. That game could have gotten weird, right? Auburn got it to 7. Ole Miss had a quick 3 and out, and they did enough to win the game. It wasn't exactly a work of art. The defense, I didn't think, played particularly well, but they did plenty to win the game in which they never trailed, and they just kind of handled their business despite playing, kind of poorly, particularly against the run on the defensive side. And I think that's the mark of a changing culture. I think you underscored that pretty well in what you were saying. It's times are changing because, you're talking about the critiques of a 14-point win against an SEC West opponent that's kind of had your number for the last decade and a half.
Alabama not dead. They get in the end zone pending the PAT. It would be 28-17 balls over the Tide. Now, the problem for Tennessee is going to be the problem for Alabama is going to be stopping Tennessee. Hooker has all the time in the world to throw and is firing darts across the middle of the field. We're not going to talk about Alabama, Tennessee with you, but that is the update there, 28-17.
Wow, so they
balls
scored
now.
again. I'd seen 21-10. I was a little bit behind on the score app. So that was
Yeah.
28-10 at one point?
Yeah, that is
Whoa.
correct. It was 28-10, now 28-17 as Reichert hits the PAT there. You were in the stadium today. I was just complimenting the crowd a minute ago. They pulled off the powder blue. It was full. I was there for a half. I thought that the crowd did give, or at least try to give, the defense energy throughout the game. It felt pretty close to an A+ from a fan environment standpoint.
Given getting people to show up to games, I don't really think there's any other way to put it. They've sold out back-to-back 11 a.m. games. In this modern age of college football where the TV experience is so good, and, the stuff we've talked about for months on end on the podcast and, trying to get people to games and the at-home experience, drawing people in, they're getting people to show up, and it's impressive. I was impressed by the crowd size. I thought, from what I could see, the only empty sections were kind of the sporadic pieces of Auburn sections. They didn't seem to bring a ton of people. But, yeah, I thought it was a good environment, particularly for an 11 a.m. game. I think if you had just dropped someone there, not told them what time it was, I don't think you could have told them it was an 11 a.m. game until the bizarre lightning delay there at the end. But, yeah, I thought the crowd was great, and I think it helped Ole Miss at some points in the game.
Ole Miss got up 21-0 in the first quarter. They outgained – I don't have it in front. I wrote it in observations. I don't have it in front of me right now. They outgained Auburn like 225-23 in the first quarter, and then Auburn comes back, gets up, gets to 14 points. I thought after the weird interception, it was not Jackson Dart's fault. The defense holding Auburn to that field goal was huge. When you get into the break at 11 instead of 7, it sort of changed demeanor a little bit. I think it calmed Ole Miss down. They come out, they play pretty well at the beginning of the second half. What was the most nervous part of the stadium? What was sort of the feel in the stands or wherever you were as Auburn was somewhat closing it up there in the second quarter?
I think probably the fact when they went down the field with relative ease right after halftime and scored, because Ole Miss was a 3-and-out away from that game getting a little bit weird. I would say that was probably the only time where it got kind of testy. And then of course Ole Miss scored, and I was going to the bathroom. Was that a full-fledged onside kick or some kind of weird sky kick? What exactly happened there? I didn't actually get to see that play. I was still getting back into my seat.
What are we talking about?
So they got up. Auburn scored. Ole Miss answered, and then Ole Miss appeared to recover some sort of onside.
They
kick,
just straight up onside kicked. It looked like the Saints in the Super Bowl. It was just a straight onside kick.
Yeah. So at that point it was quelled pretty quickly. But I would say that at the point it got probably the most uneasy from a tension standpoint. It was probably when Auburn went straight down the field after halftime to score to cut it to, I guess that would be, 4. I guess they cut it to 4. Is that correct?
4. Yeah, they got it to one possession.
Yeah.
At that point.
They were in it. Ole Miss was 3-and-out away at that point from it getting weird, right?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And I think that's the deal. I mean, when you look at this game overall, I don't know if there was ever a point, much like last week, except even more so because it's Auburn, it's not Vanderbilt. It's easy to have this opinion when you're playing Vanderbilt. But I never thought Ole Miss was going to lose the football game. They got up early. They dictated tempo offensively with the run game the entire day. And I'm going to kind of ask everybody about Jackson Dart, so I'll avoid just peppering you with a bunch of Dart questions. But despite being 9 for 19, I thought he managed the game well. I thought he's a gamer. He's a winner. I thought that the run game was so good. You thought, okay, Ole Miss is going to be able to drive down the field and score if they have to. It was one of those deals where they kind of beat themselves when they did not score offensively. They had Auburn's number from a schematic and a run game standpoint. Ole Miss was in control even when the game tightened up. It felt like Auburn needed the turnover, needed the break, and now I think a lot of the angst and the anxiety would have come from, Ole Miss can give them that turnover or that thing. But if you just kind of watch the game outside of I think Bigsby's a freak. I mean, he is a man's running back. He is a stud, and Ashford could do a lot of things with his legs as well. But outside of that, where it was sort of improvisation, Ole Miss sort of did so much better with its actual offense and actual game plan and controlled the game when things weren't weird or crazy.
Yeah, and as it pertains to the Dart aspect of it, I was texting Buchanan a couple of times throughout the game, and he was I wouldn't say frustrated, but perplexed by the game plan, particularly as it pertained to the passing game. You mentioned Dart was 9 and 19 for 130 yards. I think that was his same stat line with about 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game. I don't think he threw a pass in the final 7 to 8 minutes. I could have that incorrect, but today felt more like on the receivers in the game plan, didn't it? They didn't seem to create separation. Obviously, you had the screen pass where Mingo drops it and it ends up being an interception. Clearly, that's not on Dart, although it sounded like Dan Orlovsky was trying his damnedest to blame it on that. I guess I'll have to go watch that in the morning. But it just felt like today they didn't really have a ton of guys open. And, not to sound too overly Pollyanna about it, but I mean, it's a credit to Dart for not self-destructing and making that, one mistake that he's been prone to per game. But it just didn't seem like they had a lot of options. And as creative as they've been, getting guys the football, right? I mean, Dayton Wade carried the football out of the backfield a couple of times today and scored on the touchdown pass. They found different ways to get different guys the football. I thought the Judkins call on that 3rd down and goal where they brought him across the left side to the right and threw it for a touchdown was a great play call. But with all of that said, it didn't feel like they did a whole lot to get receivers open. That, to me, was more the story of the day than anything Dart did. And it's kind of weird coming off a game where Mingo tore up the record books and then you have Malik Heath have a 100-yard game before that. I mean, I don't know if you saw something different, but today was more schematic-wise in terms of struggling in the passing game or on the receivers. I didn't think Dart played bad. I just didn't think he had a ton of options.
I mean, you look at it, and Ole Miss rushes for 448, and to my knowledge, unless I'm forgetting something, Ole Miss only did a deep play-action pass one time. They tried to hit Mingo at some point there in the second half, right before the lightning delay, they went to it. And now look, Mingo was bracketed a good bit before that, and Auburn really focused on taking him out of the game, which opened up the run game in a lot of different ways. I mean, Auburn did things dominating, trying to defend the pass that did open up the run. However, in saying that, you had them completely looking in the backfield because of the way you're running the football, and running the football in multiple ways. I mean, Jackson Dart went over 100 yards today. So even him on the keepers was going for over the century mark. You would have thought the downfield passing would have been open, and it either is like they either didn't have it for some reason that we weren't aware of, or it's the deal where they were running the ball so much that Lane didn't take the chance of the pick down the field or something. You know what I mean? It almost felt like he was being as safe as humanly possible with the game plan to say, hey, we're just going to run it and run it and run it and run it and run it, and that's going to get the job done. And then they scored 48 points, and they stole one possession, but it wasn't like they had defensive touchdowns or something coming off turnovers that really gave them a lot of short fields.
No, and to add on to that, I think that's well said, and I think that's probably there's something to that because I noticed, and I wrote down this note at the beginning of the game. So at the beginning of the game, they had Mingo and Heath on the same side of the field, on the short side of the field a couple of times, and then they would line up Mingo in the H-back on the same side that they often had Casey Kelly on too. And so they gave a lot of weird looking fronts. I don't know if that's technically called an overloaded front, but they would have him on the H-back side on the same side as Casey Kelly too. And it seemed like there was a lot of misdirection, right? They set it up twice with that kind of toss out of the shotgun. Yeah. And then they did that off play action. The third time they kind of faked it, and then they went the other way. It seemed like they kind of had something there with Auburn from a misdirection standpoint. And you're exactly right. I think they played it as safe as possible because they knew they could run it on them. They were very creative in the way they ran the football. It just seemed like some of the passing stuff suffered because of it. Maybe some of that is by design. I don't really know. But it just did seem from a passing standpoint that there just wasn't a whole lot available to Dart today. And again, maybe that was by design. I mean, running for 448 yards will play. I think you'll win a lot of games doing that if you can do it.
It's frankly hard to lose when you run for 448.
I would say that's safe.
I mean, it really is. It's really hard to lose football games when you run for 448. Ole Miss didn't tackle well against Tulsa, and we said, okay, so far it's an anomaly. That's the only time it had been bad. It was rough today. And it wasn't even necessarily missed tackles. It was the amount of times that Auburn players were able to extend for the extra 1 or 2 yards. I mean, even look, the game was basically over. Auburn would have had to go down, score, get an onside kick, score again. And with that offense, that was asking for 8 miracles at once because, I mean, the Tigers scored 34, and that was about as well as they damn could have done because they hit several big plays. And it wasn't like they drove the field. Bigsby just made things happen. And Ashford is pretty good from improvising outside the pocket. But point being, even on that last drive for Auburn, there were multiple fourth downs where if you just step up and tackle the quarterback where he is, the series is over. And twice, Ashford was able to power through defenders, get 2 or 3 extra yards, and extend extend the game essentially at that point. Ole Miss they did a bad job tackling. I feel like their angles were worse than usual today. And then also it felt like they did not do a very good job of stopping the runners where they were, even if it wasn't Bigsby, and not, the after contact stuff did not go their way. And I wonder how much of that was just one of those days, because in college football that happens. It just is what it is, where some stuff isn't explained. But then also, how much of it is a step up in competition from a physicality standpoint? Because they played Kentucky, but Chris Rodriguez is not Tank Bigsby when it comes to stopping guys at the point of attack and the burst that Bigsby has. I mean, he could go play anywhere in the country.
Yeah, no, I think that's the ultimate question, right? Is the fact that is it a step up in competition? Because there's something about tackling at the second level we talked about with a couple weeks, and it struggled today. I mean, I think what I was looking at it after the game, Tank Bigsby carried the football 20 times and averaged 9 yards to carry. Jarquez Hunter carried it 10 times and averaged 8 yards. Like, that's troubling. And on top of that, Ashford made a lot of plays with his feet. And I'd be interested to go back and watch the game tomorrow, because it didn't seem like Ole Miss brought a lot of pressure. And I don't know what that stems from. I'm not going to pretend to try to tell you I could figure out what that is. But I don't know if it's the fact that they had early success running the football early in the game, and that kind of threw them off a little bit. But they didn't pass the litmus test from that point. Tank Bixby came into that game averaging 2.6 yards per rush in 3 SEC games. The offensive line for Auburn had been really, really bad, and it was almost impossible to gauge Tank Bixby's season to that point, because of the fact that he's just basically running behind five ghosts, and they had a ton of success with it today. And then when you add the fact that they can't really throw the football down the field, and Ashford was just kind of running wild. I don't know what he ended up with from a net rushing standpoint. I'd be interested to see what, minus the sack yardage, what that factored into. But that's kind of the great question, because I do think if Ole Miss plays that way against the run next week, they've got a pretty good shot of getting beat. It wasn't great. And the tackling at the second level, I thought, turned a lot of 5 and 6 yard carries into 17, 18, 20-yard carries a couple of times, and that really hurt them and kept Auburn in the game. It's a great question. Is it a step up in competition, or is it just one of these things where, as we see in college football, it's such a week-to-week sport now, did they just have a bad day? And I'm not sure we'll find that out until Baton Rouge next weekend, because I can promise you that LSU's going to put on that film and try to figure out a way to run the football on Ole Miss. And for all the struggles in their passing game, they have a quarterback that can extend plays with their legs.
Ashford went for about 70 if you take out the sacks. Something like that. But the deal with that,
How much total?
is – do what?
How much did he go total, did you say?
Well, it's 70 taking out the sacks, but you have to remember a couple times he was on design runs that
Still
lost a crap ton of yards. So those wouldn't even be counting in the – you know what I mean? Like, those wouldn't even be counting inside the sack totals. I'd have to look at his actual yard-by-yard.
How they fared against the run.
Do what?
Right? I mean, that's the damper. I mean, I texted you at 21-0, and I thought Auburn was going to quit, and then it turns out they just kept plugging away and running the football. That's the one damper for today, is the fact that Ole Miss didn't tackle on the second level and really got kind of abused against the run for most of that game.
Bigsby, you said he went for 9 a rush, which is absolutely correct, but he went for over 6 a rush if you remove the 50-yard run.
That's still not great.
So if you even take the 50-yard run out, where he just had he had the one steroid, if you will, to his run game, he still averaged 6 yards. No, it's a problem, because in a lot of ways
2.6 headed in.
Do what?
He was at 2.6 in 3 SEC games headed in. That's a huge jump.
Oh, was he really? I didn't know that. Auburn is a poor man's version of LSU offensively. I mean, if you're Ole Miss and you have a concern for next week, that is the concern. Because I guess that's what I'm saying is, it's such a weird deal. We're going into week 8 or whatever we're doing here, and as you said, they won't have a true road game until next week. Now we'll see what kind of mood LSU's in, but still, I don't think it's going to be terrible. I mean, they're average, if whatever else. And then whatever Auburn does, now Bigsby is better whenever LSU has in the backfield. But at the same time, LSU does other things schematically, and their quarterback is even though he's not good, he is better than Ashford. I mean, you're going to get a lot of the same looks from LSU next week. I'm curious to see what Pete does in his pigskin preview, but it is going to be the more improved version of Auburn. Ole Miss is going to have to be better with angles and tackling those things, because, I mean, as we know, things can get pretty real.
Yeah, they absolutely can, and that's going to be a fascinating football game next week, right? And now it kind of seems like, all right, this is real. Ole Miss is 7-0. this is kind of what we talked about in the preseason. I think they could start 7-0. What do they do in these final 5 games? They have a road test at LSU. They have a road test at Texas A&M. Can they get to the bye week against Alabama kind of okay and intact with an undefeated record? I think they can go down and beat LSU. I don't think that's really any sort of breaking news. I would probably wager on Ole Miss to win that game. But they're going to have to play a lot better defensively. Today was, again, they kind of failed the litmus test, right? I mean, look, Auburn hadn't had a ton of success running the football because of how bad their offensive line had been, and they had a lot of success today. How much can Ole Miss improve that in the next 6.5 days before going down in their first true road test? Because that, coupled with, a turnover or two, is really how they're going to find themselves in the dogfight next week. LSU's not a good football team, but, they have ways to exploit that Ole Miss defense and can definitely hang around in the game.
You've been wonderful at prognosticating so far this season. What is your early thought on next week?
Was that a shot at my 35% record? I went 500 last week. I was telling people, don't let me get hot.
Well,
I think Ole Miss wins. I think Ole Miss wins by field goal.
You do have the April 30th type Ole Miss thing going on. I mean, they were 7-14 in the SEC on May 1st.
2 weeks ago, I left Arkansas at rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I wonder where my job security was. And now I'm just saying, don't let me get hot. I told you Tennessee might win this game. It's looking good so far. So I'll say Ole Miss wins by a field goal, which means hammer LSU. Congrats to the people out there.
Did you have Ole Miss or Auburn?
I had Ole Miss, so that's a loss on the old spread there, I believe, from the way it was. I thought for a while it'd be 21-0. I was like, all right, chalk that one up as a winner, and then that just hung around 10, 14 points the whole time. Zach Evans or Judkins, whoever had that last carry, if he breaks one more tackle, he could have had the cover. It's just disappointing to see they didn't have the heart to put that in and cover the spread.
Got somebody that either a kid has a phone or somebody is in medical condition in the stream because they were just posting a bunch of gibberish. I had to put him in timeout because it's just clogging up the stream. So I don't know. Or he has a really high blood alcohol content. Yeah, I have a hunch that Jay has a much higher alcohol situation going on than I do right now. I'm drinking carbonated water, and I think Jay's probably been hammered since like midway through the game at some point. Is Auburn going to fire Brian Harsin this week, or is he going to survive?
It's weird. At 21-0, it felt like, this is happening, right? He's getting the pink slip Sunday morning. This is probably over with. They showed some fight today. I don't think that will probably appease a ton of Auburn boosters. But if they hadn't fired him at this point, what do you do about getting beat by 2 touchdowns at Ole Miss where you had a pretty good offensive output, which has been your problem? Look, he's getting canned, right? It's just how long until they play out the string. I would venture to say he probably survives another week, but aren't they going into a bye week now? Maybe they do pull the trigger anyway.
Yeah, it is a bye week. I mean, they have 2 weeks. I just don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know what the reasons are. I mean, if you're jumping into the fray, and I know the argument is, well, you're going to go ahead and start getting your pick of the litter because of this or that or whatever, and you get to start the process. And okay, fine. That is what it is. But are you really? I mean, if Hugh Freeze stuff is real, you can go get Hugh whenever. You don't have to fire the. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm mumbling over myself. I guess I see both sides of it because the argument is go ahead and get somebody else in there and start your search. But at the same time, Auburn is not like their interim is going to go win the gig. You know what I mean? They're not going to bring some coordinator up and let him go 6-0 and suddenly there's like this clamoring because Auburn's already made up its mind from a fan base standpoint who it's clamoring for, whether it's be 1 or 2 or 3 guys. So in some ways, it just is what it is.
They just want to head on the platter. I mean, that's not solving any issues hiring Brian Harsin. It's just how mad are their boosters or the people that make decisions after a loss to Ole Miss, who they don't really lose to very often. And at what point do they get to the tipping point and they just say, all right, we're kicking this guy to the road? Again, not solving any issues. That to me just feels like, at what point does it get to the point where you just act like they demand flesh and he would be the flesh that kind of goes on the chopping block there? I don't know. I mean, that guy was a dead man walking from February on.
Jacob has an interesting thought in the stream because he says, I don't think Auburn fires Harsin midseason. I look at their staff. They don't have a decent interim. You don't need a decent interim. Like in some ways,
that's the point.
Do what now?
You don't have a guy that can win the job. That sounds like a more optimal situation to go ahead and do it, right? If you have a guy that's going to take over that has no chance of winning it.
Yeah, you don't want a good interim because, frankly, with the way Auburn works from the society ecosystem standpoint, you kind of want them to be as pissed off as possible because that's when they spend more money and do stupid stuff, crazy stuff. Like, so the
and
more
hire
you
a guy
lose, the
like
more
Hugh
they just
Freeze.
get frustrated because they're just going to blame it on Harsin anyway. When the interim loses, oh, well, Harsin didn't give us crap. I mean, even with this guy calling plays, it doesn't matter. We suck. You know what I mean? It's still all on Brian
Yeah,
Harsin.
I think there's a no-win situation from having the interim continue to coach the second half of the season, and again, unless he has no shot at getting it. I don't even know who the interim would be. Like again, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but I think he probably survives the week. But it wouldn't stun me if they go into the bye week and they're just like, all right, you go back out to the West Coast. You know, you can join the C organization or whatever he's into. I don't really know, but I'd give it a coin flip chance he gets fired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you absolutely want the bad interim and this thing to just fall apart with whatever else is going on. I mean, yeah, you don't want anybody to even think about winning. What's the plan? Headed back to the Grove?
Yeah, probably headed back to the Grove for a little bit, talk to my parents, and then I'm really just I don't really have the crowded bar scene in me anymore, so hopefully I get to post up somewhere with some LB's Meat Market. That's what we in the biz call a plug, and watch the night games is probably my plan.
What's the move from LB's?
I like the filet burgers. We got some tri-tip going on as well, but you know, as someone that is, I would say, culinary challenged like myself, you can just throw the filet burgers on the grill, flip them a couple of times. It's hard to screw them up. You know, if they're burnt, you can't get sick, is what I realized. So I think that's probably the move.
You haven't gotten better at cooking with the living alone over the time?
It has not been great. It's just been hitting the Oxford takeout scene, which is actually shrunken from the Dallas takeout scene. So I'm really just down to like 3 restaurants a week that I'm just a regular at. It's a sad state of affairs over here. If someone wants to give me cooking lessons there in the stream, I'm all ears.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you like 5 dishes that you can just knock
You're
out.
gonna have to teach me like I'm 4 though. Like I'm talking basic stuff. Pour
I
the
mean,
milk in X and do Y.
we could put this shit on video. This could be content.
It could. Maybe we could get Currents in the mix, being like, "Good God, this guy's hopeless." But
I,
it'd be good content.
yeah, the MPW digital version of like whatever that is on Food Network about like worst chefs in America or whatever that thing's called. Neil would know. He watches that stuff. I think it's
I would take
doable.
home the belt.
Yeah.
I don't even
So
know the show, but I would win.
yeah, enjoyed it, bud. Let's talk Monday.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Was Brian Rippey joining us here on the show? Yeah, get a crock pot might be the number one advice because you can do anything with an Instapot or a crock pot to get some meals done. I think probably should have kept Brian. We're gonna get Brian a crock pot. I mean, we bought computers for people. We can buy a crock pot for somebody and give them 5, 10 crock pot meals. You can make that thing work, especially as the time goes through. Yeah, Randall, I'm just saying I wasn't being rude. Like, I mean, I agree. It's not ideal with a solo deal. It's you lose banner, you lose certain parts of the show and the jovial nature of it for sure. I just there's with what we're trying to do overall. I mean, I think at times we've forgotten that. Not forgotten. That's not fair to us, but we're a website and a podcast, and how to manage those all effectively to the point that we have, and our written content and our written coverage had really suffered for the most part um with what we were doing last year. So we're looking for the right we're looking for the right middle ground. I mean, I think we're going to try some different things for sure, but I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Yeah, I think we can have Neil cook. I think we can do some cooking lesson stuff. I think this is not a bad idea. I mean, we can even live stream this thing. We can do 45 minutes where we're grilling and doing some recipes. I think we might be onto something here. I had known this about Brian, but I'd kind of forgotten that's where we were at. So I'm going to we're still waiting on Jeffrey to get ready. Again, everybody was at the game, so our deal becomes a little more strange from a scheduling standpoint with everybody getting ready. But that's cool. I'm glad he and Aaliyah enjoyed it. I can't speak, and we're still in the first hour of the show, so that's not great. Yeah, 28 degrees in Oxford on Tuesday. We're going to potentially get like a hard freeze. It's going to be a mess next week. I'm not a cold weather person. I would rather 98 than 28. And we're getting the early hard freeze potentially next week. It's going to be different. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull up some stats. We'll go over those. If anybody wants to call, might even go ahead and open the calls up because there's no reason not to. Nobody else. So 662-259-7556 when we're waiting on Jeffrey and Neil. Somebody would like to call and talk about the game, cooking, whatever you want. That's fine. Got Alabama and Tennessee on the TV. right now as well. So there's a number 662-259-7556. As Brian and I mentioned, Jackson Dart goes 9 for 19, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns, the 1 interception. It's only 47% on a completion percentage, but I thought Dart managed the game well. I want to talk to Jeffrey about it. I want to talk to Neil about it. The stat line didn't completely give him justice on what he did today because he was good in the run game. He was good on decision making. The 1 interception was not his fault at all. And he just sort of followed the plan and managed and did what he needed to do. They did not push a lot down the field. He missed Heath on that touchdown when Lane did like the yoga pose thing, frustrated on the sidelines. But outside of that, I really just kind of thought it was okay. I thought he was very careful, but careful is not a bad thing when you run for 448 yards or whatever it was. I mean, that's a good thing. That's the point. When you have that type of run game going, and then just some mauling numbers in the run game. Ole Miss, Quinshawn Judkins, 25 carries, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, including that long 41-yard run that kind of put the game away there in the second half. He averages 5.6 yards per carry. Zach Evans goes 21 carries, 136 yards. He had some tough runs late that sort of kept the clock going, kept the sticks moving as well. 1 touchdown for him along a 26.5 per carry for Evans. And then Jackson Dart, 14 carries, 115 yards. No touchdowns. That's okay. Long a 22, averaging 8.2 in that one. And then Dayton Wade, 4 for 63. He was just kind of electric all the way around. Those were all jet sweeps he did a really good job with. And then in the passing game, he catches the touchdown. He was pretty good there too. I mean, Wade goes 2 catches, 44 yards, and the score. That was It was a 35-yard touchdown for that one. Jordan Watkins leads Ole Miss with 4 catches, 43 yards. So not much at all there. But 4 for 43 is the leading receiver. Zach Evans 1 for 23. That was a touchdown, as you remember there. Ryan said Judkins, but that was Evans on that catch. And then Casey Kelly, 1 catch, 13 yards. It did move the sticks. That was a critical catch when Kelly had it there as he sort of lunged across the line for a first down at that point. And then Judkins, he also had his touchdown, 1 catch, 7 yards on that one, a long 7, 10 of those after the catch for Judkins. On the Auburn side, Robbie Ashford, 8 of 17, 140 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Brandon, are you okay? Do we need to send out a search party? Are you trying to signal something to us in Morse code, or does your 3-year-old just have your phone? I'm probably leaning on the final thing, but just kind of curious there. What's going on? Yes, the Braves eliminated after a hell of a divisional series run. Phillies are going to move on here to the NLCS. Yeah, I'm a little worried about you, Brandon, but I think your kid just has your phone. That's my guess. Rushing again, Tank Bigsby for Auburn, 20 carries, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. That long of 50, that was a 50-yard touchdown run. Jacquez Hunter, as Brian mentioned, 10 carries, 80 yards on that one, along of 48. He averaged 8 yards a carry. So Bigsby averaging 9, and then Hunter averaging 8. I mean, my God. Here I'm gonna have to stop Brandon again simply because it's affecting the show at this point. There we go. Got that fixed. Sorry about that in the game for a second. Neil says he's actually in a spot to go ahead and talk. So I might go ahead and go to Neil here in a second and get his thoughts on the game. He's back in the press box from Lane's press conference. Let me ask him exactly. Oh, well, hold on. Hold on. Jeffrey's ready. So never mind. We'll call Jeffrey here in a second, and then we'll call Neil after that. Let Neil get a little more content. He's already got some stuff up at rebelgrove.com, but he will be with us here soon. I will call Jeffrey in 1 minute. There's really nothing else overly appealing from the stats page there for that one. Give me 1 second here, guys, and we'll get this going. What are y'all watching while Alabama and Tennessee are at half? What else is on? What's keeping your attention? Are you just watching baseball? I saw some Astros chatter there in the stream. Oh, Oklahoma State. What channel is Oklahoma State on? Yeah, I'm not going to watch the Astros. I'll find Oklahoma State.
Hi, you've reached Jeffrey with 92.9 FM. Please
Give him a second there. Let him call back. ABC for Oklahoma State. Okay, let's go around there then. Oh, CBS comparing Hooker to Joe Burrow. That is something. I mean, look, Hooker's been really good, but we're getting on over in the rarefied praise at that point. Let's see if we can go ahead and finish this game off first. It does not feel like this is 100% over here for Tennessee. Now, I have Alabama covering just because I was looking at names on helmets. Yeah, Jeffrey's got a good voicemail. I don't think my voicemail is probably as good. Jeffrey's got a good voicemail. Let's find ABC while we are waiting. Not watching NC State Syracuse either. What is the NC State Syracuse score? What's going on there? I don't know about blitz them, but yeah, I'm not giving up on Bama yet in this at all. Like this thing is not over. Randall, thank you, my guy. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you for the super chat. Yeah, we're just making it work. We're trying to figure it out. Jeffrey is trying to call me in a way that I don't know I have it set up. So give me a second to try to figure out if that is required or not. I'm not sure. You there, Jeff?
The whole cracker, you didn't chew it.
Jeffrey, you there?
All right, sorry. I guess I tried to call you from my computer and you called to my phone.
Oh, my fault. Well, it's because I couldn't get my phone. I mean, people don't care about this. I couldn't get my phone to register on the eCam. I don't know why. It wasn't doing it. Did you enjoy Vaught Hemingway? How was your day?
Yeah, it's just always weird being at a game in person. Like I realized, I think I told y'all it's the first time I've gone to a game and like sat in the stands since 2012. And so it is like just a different experience where, it's much less of a job and more of like you kind of get the communal aspect. It's the same people that have been sitting in the same section literally my entire life. And then it's hilarious to see like the kids that were like kids, like when I was still going regularly, Like they're now half of them were at Ole Miss and half are at Auburn, and then that was kind of an alarming realization. Like, okay, here these kids are grown up in college, but I think the thing that's interesting to me is, for marching band to be such an integral part of college football, isn't it funny how they're getting phased out? Like, I noticed this, they don't even mic the band anymore. You know what I mean? Because, and you get it because in the end, the players want the stadium music and whatnot. Like, so, I get it. The players get what they want, but it's just kind of, I don't know. It feels like college football is like this blend between still trying to be like, still having some traditions, yet becoming more and more of the NFL.
I haven't thought about that because I can't tell you. It's one of the reasons that the pandemic affected things. I can't tell you the last time I was in an open air press box to notice that for football. It's been years.
And like that, and that's the other thing. Like the Ole Miss press box, like not only is it enclosed, like it's especially without me, Kellenberger, and the good old boys there anymore. It's got to be pretty quiet. But yeah, I mean, it's I think they do. I think they do a good job. It's just, God, man. And I don't know whose fault it is, but they got to do something about the games, man. Like, it took an hour to play the first. Like, forget the whole fact that this game had a delay. Like, it took an hour to play the first quarter. The funny thing was it the second play of the game where there was going to be the targeting?
Yes.
Like, there was the targeting review. So right when that happens, I told Aaliyah, I was like, hey, what do you want? Like, I'll go get the drinks. It's going to be 5 minutes. Like, and sure enough, I think I missed one play by the time I'd gotten back. And, like, the fact that I can sit there and know that a targeting review is going to waste 5 minutes, and, it's beyond just that, man. ESPN's to blame, too. I saw there was one sequence where it went injury, 3-minute timeout, touchdown, another injury, and then another 3-minute timeout. Like, it's just they're going. It's already hard enough asking people to go to the games anyway, and they're not making it any easier.
And you were in a spot then. If you got back in 5 minutes, it's a couple different things here. Ole Miss's stadium, it's why they do need a new stadium whenever they do renovate and everything. I understand the need for it from a logistical standpoint. Is you could go get a drink and it take almost 45 minutes or something today in some sections. So you combine that with the game where, look, it's a couple different things. It's they review some things they shouldn't be reviewing. And then two, there's not a good enough time limit on getting back to it. It should never take 5 minutes for a review. You look at it from a couple different angles, and if it's not obvious, then you keep it as a play is called on the field and you move on with your day. And the only time it should take longer is if you're having to reset the clock or do things to figure out what time something happens. There's a certain logistical way the game is being run by the referees that is creating some of this problem, right?
Oh, that's a huge part of it. But let's also be clear what another big part of it is. ESPN, the TV networks run college football. Could you imagine trying to tell the NFL, hey, we're going to take an extra break here? Like, the NFL just would say, no, you're not. You're not broadcasting the NFL anymore. Like, that's the thing that's so fascinating to me is that football on television is dominating so many of the decisions that these TV networks are making, yet one league completely dictates terms, the NFL, and then college football just sits there and goes, thank you, sir, may we have another? Thank you, sir, may we have another? And then before everyone goes, well, look at how much they're paying. Have y'all happened to check out the NFL TV contracts? The NFL's not doing this as a service.
Do you get to a point where it actually affects viewership where they have to stop? Or what would potentially make any changes happen to this?
The only thing that's ever going to make changes – no, the only thing that's ever going to make changes is if college football comes up with a governing structure in which there's a lead executive. Like, in the end, the reason why it's what it is they all just bow down because there's no Roger Goodell. There's no lead executive to essentially dictate anything.
How are you setting up your TVs this afternoon? Are you staying here or are you going back?
Yeah, so that was the only thing the only reason I'm late getting here is I went to go get we're gonna grill and stuff, and so I didn't want to be sitting here at 5:30 trying to. I went to LB's. Shout out to Greg. We got 2 bone-in ribeyes. We're excited about those. I have in my old bedroom in here. There's a Sharp, so I'm about to get that bad boy out and split the cable. And then I'll put like a little TV probably connected to an Apple TV. It's pretty sad right now.
Pretty bare bones around the old homestead.
Yeah, this is
at the moment.
But it's a very comfortable condo, and so it's kind of like it feels, even though it's really not anything different, like it feels like we're taking a day or two to like kind of enjoy ourselves. There's kind of a mental trick that we're doing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything not home feels different. So sure.
Yeah, and the condo kind of has a little more like, it feels more spacious, even though like our house is obviously bigger. But like I don't know, there's more of there's more of like a getaway feel.
Yeah, Oklahoma State.
Also, by the way,
yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry if I don't think they're a sponsor, so I don't care. Does PJ's ever intend to have any inventory?
Dude, I can't tell you the last time I've been there. There's 5 places in town I would use outside of that. And again, no offense if you want to advertise, call. But I until you said that, I sort of even forgot it existed over there.
But like, when I was here before, obviously the Kroger, like it used to be certainly square footage wise the biggest, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, I think, I was trying to figure out the last time I've been to Oxford before today, and Aaliyah and I think it's possibly like 2.5 years. But like every time I've gone in there 3 times, and like they just have nothing on the shelf. Like, and I understand it's a game day. It's like, I understand game day weekend. It's like, okay, but like literally you go in there and you think like it's if you've ever seen like a store right before it closes for good, like that's what it looks like inventory wise.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where they were so handy where they were beside Kroger, and then now it's falling off where it has because you have to cross the street, and crossing right there sucks.
Not only do you have to cross the street, the median, there's the divided, there's like the median in the middle, and you can't, like, you have to like pull a U-turn.
Yeah.
If you're coming from Kroger.
High Cotton typically has the best bourbon selections in town, but Kaimi gets some pretty good stuff too. But those are probably going to be the places you're going to find something a little different. High Cotton does a really good job with its barrel picks. Talking to the stream. The other part of as I move on to the actual game, the other part of the game experience standpoint from slowness is that both those teams were running the football, and it took that long. It was not even like they were airing the damn thing out. That was a running football game that caused.
No, that's what my brother and I are laughing. Both teams at half had completed like a combined 11 passes.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, they'd only thrown, I think Dart was 6 of 10 in the first half, and then I think Ashford, Finley combined, I think were like 4 of 11. So it wasn't like, they were throwing it every down, they were bad. It's like, no, like everyone was just dominating the game on the ground.
What did you think of Ole Miss's game plan? They didn't throw deep off play action. They really didn't throw it all. Obviously, it was based off what Auburn was presenting them defensively to an extent, but it was almost to the point of they were able to run to such an ability that there was no reason to take any chances because I think it was 9 of 19 statistically. I thought Dart played pretty well today from just a straight gamer standpoint.
No, I mean, again, I don't know what they would say post game, but just watching the football game, it seemed to me that Auburn clearly said, we will not let Mingo and we're not going to let Judkins beat us. And I think for the most part, they executed that. Now, I also think that's partly why I think Zeke was so good today. That and his stiff arm was, man, he had a couple of stiff arms that were like, holy hell, that was impressive. But, I mean, it's kind of tough to complain about Ole Miss on the offensive end when you put up 48 and they punted twice?
Yeah, ran for 448.
448, and then not only that, it was like 6'5", 6'6" to carry, right?
6'6", I think.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting 6.6 a carry, Dylan just got in here, so Carly's freaking out. It's tough to complain. I don't know, I didn't even think I thought the interception was more on Mingo, didn't you think?
Oh, it was 100%. I mean, it was in his hands. I'm not going to blame Dart on something where the ball hits the receiver.
Well, I mean, it was a touch low, but Dart did have to avoid what? He had two guys that looked like they were coming at him. I mean, it's just I don't know. I guess are people upset because they didn't cover?
I haven't seen any of that. No, I think they got a little upset that it was 21-0, and then it ended up being a game. I mean, Auburn cuts it to 4 at one point before Ole Miss goes down, scores, steals the possession, scores again, and kind of runs away with it a little bit. But it was just that it looked like in that first quarter it was such. Yeah.
I mean, I think we do kind of have to put a little context on 21-0, don't we? I mean, it was 21-0 because of 2 turnovers. Ole Miss, Ole Miss deserves credit is they turned those 2 turnovers into points. But, it's not like Ole Miss got touchdown, stop, touchdown, stop, touchdown. The turnovers were, a little more luck than anything. I mean, you had they're nice plays. The strip sack was a nice play, and the interception. But I mean, that interception, that could have been a catch before it was an interception.
What'd you think of Ashford? I mean, he's not good, and I guess my question is, can he be good at any point, or is this just the ceiling?
I don't know if you can expect him to play any better than he did today. I mean, To me, their best offensive plays were basically him scrambling. He had a couple of nice throws, but it's good God, he had all day to make those throws. I think where Ole Miss's defense got into trouble was once they got the lead, it felt like they thought, okay, if we sit back and make him beat us, he's not going to be able to do it. And they stopped really coming after him. And then when they stopped coming after him, he is a scholarship quarterback. He's capable of beating you if you give him all day. But, I mean, what he finished I felt like he finished right about 50% for about 130 yards. And then, I don't know, what did he run for?
He ran for 35 or something, but that was after the sacks. So it was 65, 70 or something like that. And then he was 8 of 17 for 140.
Yeah, I mean, so slightly below 50%. And, the other thing about it is those were his numbers, and Ole Miss could not stop their running game. So, literally, how's it going to be any easier to play quarterback than that? It's just not, in my opinion.
And Bigsby's just good. I get that he had struggled in SEC play coming in. He was 2.6 or something, Brian said. But, I mean, that dude's got talent. I mean, if he's playing on a legitimate offense that's pretty competent, I mean, he's an all-SEC back.
Well, and Jaquiz is a good player, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, if you want to actually nitpick about what was concerning to me was, I think Auburn, we kind of talked about this last week with what Vanderbilt was doing in the first half. Auburn seemed to see that on film that, hey, you can formation Ole Miss. That was when they were flipping the tight ends and whatnot. You can formation Ole Miss to get leverage on them, and you can wash their D line down. What was truly alarming to me today was Chase, the secondary's tackling was
yes.
I had flashbacks to some of the really bad teams we covered.
So was it sheer tackling? Was it bad angles? I mean, what do you contribute that to?
Well, credit where credit's due. They are good backs.
Yeah, sure.
But there was one play. There's one play in particular to me that stood out. I think it was right after Ole Miss had scored to go up 14, and maybe it was right after they scored to go up 10. It was one of those two possessions. I had this really good angle of their linebackers getting right into the hole and breaking down when they could have like attacked a running back for a loss, but you could tell like they were so worried. They were so worried about making the tackle that like they were breaking down and like going like super fundamental and super safe. So either it told me that they didn't think athletically they were able to match up with Auburn's backs, or they just, they were not prepared for that. But I don't know how you could not be prepared for it, because it looks very similar to me to what Vanderbilt did to them last week.
I thought two of the plays, and I mentioned this early in the show, so I'm being repetitive for anybody who's been here since the beginning. Even there at the end, the game was essentially over, but they couldn't stop the point of attack on Ashford, I guess maybe both times, on those fourth downs on Auburn's last possession to just end the game. He was able to barrel over guys, get the extra 2 or 3. They were arm tackling and grabbing and those type of things. And, over the course of games, that crap adds up. I mean, that's not nothing. That every 3rd and 3 is a first down, even if you stop them after a 1-yard gain. There was just some sloppiness to it, and it's where you move forward a little bit and you look at it, and in some ways, LSU is a better version of Auburn's offense, and you're going to get that next week. Scott, thanks for the super chat. I mean, he says, when's the last time 7-0 for Ole Miss? It was 2014 when they were 7-0 and went to LSU.
Yeah, I was walking out, and I was like, I'm pretty sure, it was like I didn't have the game notes or anything, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure the last time that this program was 7-0, they headed to Baton Rouge at 7-0.
100%. I mean, that was that. What
now? I don't think the offense will try to win the game with 7 points, and then blame his holder for sending him out with 9 seconds on the play clock, and blame the holder for taking a delay game. I think they might be a little better prepared than that.
You thought Kiffin believed he had to steal a possession on the onside kick?
I did. I mean, I don't know if he said – I don't know what he said post-game. I just felt like – I mean, I told my brother at that point, it's like I felt like he did that because he didn't think they could stop him.
And they weren't at the moment.
And honestly, they really didn't stop him at the end. It's just Auburn kind of I thought the biggest mistake Auburn made was, why did they get into the 2 minute with 6 minutes to go? Why didn't they just keep running their offense?
Yeah, they panicked a little bit in the spot where they just had to they had to score, get it, and score. That was all.
Yeah, and we just saw the possession before. Like, they just ran their offense. They went down to like 2.5 minutes.
Are they firing him this week?
I mean, who do they have next week?
I don't see a reason. They're off.
I guess if you want to just get it done with at the bye week, I guess I understand that. But, like, I don't know, man. I think, what's the point? What if are they going to give the interim to Cadillac?
The interim's dead no matter what. I mean, I told Brian a minute ago, Auburn thrives off chaos. In some ways, you just need to keep losing because that motivates their boosters and gets them where they spend even more money. I mean, they're not fixing their booster issue, so lose, and just call it a day.
Well, and the worst thing, what if Cadillac like rallies them to what if he rallies them? Now, I'm not saying like they'll go win out, but like, what if Cadillac rallies them and they go 500 and beat someone that you can kind of spin, and then all of a sudden there's pressure on you to do something with Cadillac?
Their remaining schedule is they're off, and then they play Arkansas at home. They go to Starkville, A&M at home, Western Kentucky at Alabama.
What's their record right now?
Auburn is 3-4.
So they have Western. Who did you say they had? Western. I was trying to count the wins. Can they get to 6?
It would require beating 2 of 3 out of Arkansas, Mississippi State, and A&M.
So it's doable, but it's not.
Western A&M, Arkansas, all at home. Or go to Starkville and find a win, which I don't think is possible.
I think I'd let him keep coaching, right? Because even if he goes 6-6,
You're
he's
still
not keeping the job. Yeah. So why not let him keep the job? And every win he takes, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean?
And if you really are going to get Freeze, you can get him whenever.
Yeah. You really think that Hugh would wait until February to take it?
Yeah. To me, it doesn't make sense. What's your early thought on next week? We'll talk about it Thursday, but Ole Miss and LSU.
So I told when everyone was asking me before the game what I thought, I said I really wasn't that worried about today. I'd be more worried about next week because next week, even though like you benefit a little bit by avoiding the night game, but it's going to be a 2:30 game in Baton Rouge, and it's going to be the first time Jackson Dart goes on the road against like a really, really hostile crowd. So that game kind of worried me. But, I mean, right now the good thing that Ole Miss has going for it is, it appears that they can run the football on just about anyone. And if you can do that, you usually you're going to be in most games. To your point, I think if you're talking big concern, like I imagine Brian Kelly saw a lot today on film that he goes, hey, we can do that too. So, I mean, how much of Ole Miss's defensive struggles were personnel versus, hey, maybe they're starting to finally play better athletes?
Well,
like,
yeah, because
I don't know. I wasn't up to date on the depth chart. Like, how many injuries did they have?
I mean, Cedric did not play a good bit of the game. He was out from a pass rush standpoint, and then, I mean, I get Coleman's not 100%, but frankly, relative to the fact they played 7 weeks in a row and haven't had a bye week and everything else, their defense is relatively healthy. I mean, it's not terrible.
So I mean, I would expect I feel like Ole Miss will kind of get the Tennessee treatment, right? They'll probably go on the road and be somewhere between 3 and 5 point favorites, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a valid thing. I think that's probably right. I get for podcast form this game's going to be over, but where are we handicapping Alabama and Tennessee at this moment? Assuming that this doesn't get overturned, Alabama's taking over, I guess, around midfield, down 28-20 with 12 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Well, the thing that's concerning if you're betting Alabama here is they're kind of like doing the things that you would do when you're going to lose a game like this, like muffing the punt after getting a big stop. I mean, what am I missing on the review? It was 4th and 2, wasn't it?
Yes. I'm wondering if they're saying it wasn't 4th down. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, the only thing I was wondering is it targeting?
Oh, it didn't look like it though.
Okay, call confirmed. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
This is the problem. Like, why on earth does that play need to be reviewed?
Yeah,
did he get the line or not? Like,
he was stopped 1.5 yards short.
But this is your point. Like, in general now, my question is, why do we even have officials if we're just going to sit there and wait and like what is the call? It feels like the only thing the call on the field matters for is to if you can't determine what it is one way or the other, you go, okay, let's let it stand. But it's almost like they officiate the game to send it to review.
Well, and then in review, it's no longer, hey, it's got to be egregious to overturn it, and what mattered on the field matters. I mean, if it's just standing, it means it was really bang bang and they couldn't tell. They will be more than happy to take a guess to reverse something.
Yeah, it's almost like they're and like my thing is, if you want to use the eye in the sky to officiate it, fine, but like use the eye in the sky and speed the game up. Like there's ways to do the eye in the sky and not have to stop the game.
The sideline marker guy had 3rd down, not 4th down. Caused confusion.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
was a pretty damn
Ole
good
Miss
throw.
going to go to a more of a 4-man front next week because that worked a little last week. They did not really do it today. They stayed. I thought they were just trying to get Auburn in third down. Even if they did give away something, they were going to spy Ashford, keep everything kind of in front, and then make him make a play when he had to.
I agree. I mean, I don't know. I guess the other question is how much of the 3-man versus the 4-man had to do with injuries? Good God, that was easy. All right. Well, while we're here, Alabama, let's just go ahead and win this game by 7, huh? Right? While we're here?
Oh, if you're going to do it, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and cover while we're here, right? What did we have? I had 15. What did we have in Neil's picks? I don't even know what the number was.
It was 15 or 15 and a half. I forget which one.
Man, I thought Evans broke it at the end. It was right in front of me. He needed like a half second more, and I was like, "Fuck, he's gone." Oh God, it was off. Oh, it was just miserable just to watch it right in front of you too.
Did you
15,
watch?
like to your point, 15 was such a stupid number. Like, that's a number that if you see 15, I feel like we should look up. I bet if it's 15, I bet the underdog covers at like 70%.
Yeah, because it's not enough to go, hey, the better team's just going to blow them out. But it's
Correct.
It's too much. I thought all week.
It means it's like the classic. This should be a 2-score game, but too many people are betting the favorite. So let's minimize some risk here, and let's make it 15.
Did you last thing? Did you see the streaker get blown up or whatever across the field?
Yeah, it was right in front of us. So at first I was a little woke on it. I was like, well, why didn't this guy come out when Auburn was on offense? Like,
ooh,
because I thought because he was clearly wearing the Ole Miss shirt, and so I was like, he should have come out when Auburn was on offense because the security guards made a pretty nice stick right there in the end zone, and not only that, like, it was the first time the crowd had a little energy on defense. Like, I just thought, like, hey, if you're going to give it all for your Rebels today, like, don't screw up the offense, screw up the defense.
He did not create enough of a stir or do anything interesting enough to dictate the fact that he just got arrested and blown up.
Correct. Well, the question is, do we know? We got to find out. Like, he got dared, clearly. Like, what did, I mean, did somebody give him $5,000, $10,000? I mean, there's always the be woke. Was there a prop bet today? Yes or no, there will be a streaker?
Yeah. Oh, fair. Get your friend to do the bet.
Yeah.
I mean, you can guarantee some coin.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, what's the fine for running onto the field? Like, yeah, you got to you're going to spend some time in jail, but I mean, like, what is I guarantee if you can lay enough down, the money outweighs the fine.
Yeah.
Could have been a business decision.
What are we pairing with the ribeyes?
So we got the twice baked. I've got this like bacon, okra, tomato. I know you love tomatoes.
I do.
It's a mix. I mean, the thing was, like, we thought about, like, just going over to Snack Bar when it opens, but, like, I don't know. I'm sure everyone else has the same idea that doesn't have a table, and it's like, I just don't really want to fight it. So
yeah, and we'll just grill out. So you get a TV or two, you'll be all right. Make it work.
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent chance that one TV in the corner at Snack Bar is going to be not on what I need it to be on.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, enjoy your day, bud. Appreciate it as always.
All right, guys.
Jeffrey Wright. Yeah, Troy Brown played. I've got that up here. Hold on, give me a second. Let me see. Let's see. And I'll kind of get Neil's update in a second and see where that's at. Let's see. Defense. Troy Brown has 7 tackles today. Only 2 were solos, but 7 tackles and a pass breakup. So yeah, Troy played. I mean, I'll get snap counts on Monday morning when they've been checked and finalized and all that stuff. But he definitely played. Yeah. I guess it's possible they didn't trust Dart on the long ball, but frankly, I just thought that they just weren't going to even take that chance. I mean, maybe it's the same thing. I mean, I'm not even saying that's different. Who are we talking to?
Chase, it's Mark.
Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Interestingly, the hot water at my house, I just put it in the pot. It's 142. I got to start these ribeyes in the sous vide on 129. So I actually have to let it go down.
So you're cooling the water out of the tap.
Yeah, I don't even know how to cool it other than putting ice in it. I think I'm just going to put the steaks in there.
What if you just ran so you have no way to run colder water, like even out of the fridge?
Yeah, I could do that. It just feels unnecessary.
Okay.
I can put a pound and a half worth of 70-degree steaks in there. I think it'll accomplish the same thing.
That's fair. What'd you think?
So we're in. We're 5 o'clock, 6:10 coming off. Right about the time Tennessee, Alabama's done.
Yeah.
We'll sear and we'll be ready to go. Baked potatoes are about to go in.
What's our night game? What are we doing tonight?
LSU, Florida. Not great.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what it is? Our night game tonight is the Jeffrey Wright of football games. It doesn't suck. It's not terrible, but it's not great either.
Gosh.
Get
well,
it started, right?
Nice, Mark. What do you?
No, I love Jeffrey. I love all y'all. Just playing.
You happy?
No, I went up and back to the game today. I'm back to Jackson. Yeah. No, I wasn't nervous. I left mid-third quarter up 14 points. And when the lightning delay hit, I was super happy about my decision. I made it back right about the time the game was ending. And like I said, about to do ribeyes, baked potatoes, some sauteed mushrooms. Going to be good to go tonight.
Yeah. Tennessee answers right back, by the way, 35-28, pending the PAT here.
Oh, Tennessee just scored. I stepped outside for a second.
60-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, and look, they missed one or two in the first half. Honestly, they look like the better team right now. I don't know how the game will end up, but they look better than Alabama. Maybe that's the Ole Miss fan in me wishing that Alabama is not as good as they typically are, but they don't look great.
Yeah, they're showing a lot of fight right here. Oh, and Tennessee missed the PAT, 34-28. That won't matter
in a game like
at
this,
all.
I'm guessing
Don't worry.
That's not going to come back to hurt them. You
yeah,
think it
no,
will?
we will not even mention that again. No way.
I think this just gets settled today. I don't think the PAT matters. It's not like that wasn't Reagan King kicking, was it?
Yeah, I don't know who that was. Who? Anyway, what's
no, it was
next
a good
week
game today.
Like?
Good crowd. I will tell you this: our stadium looks better in powder blue than any other color, and it's really not even up for discussion.
The red can look really good. Navy doesn't look good during the day, and it's too dark at night. I thought they did a great job, and I mean the fans, with the powder today. It looked like one of the few times where I thought, okay, no, that looked like the true powder blue out, or however you want to phrase that thing. When I got to my seat in the press box, the stands were already fairly full, and I went, wow, yeah, okay, that looks really, really good.
And then if you look up close, everybody has a different shade on, and there's even some red and navy sprinkled within there, but powder hides it better than anything else, which is why I think that's the color to go with.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're ever going to phase out any of them necessarily. But I do think powder becoming dominant or a co-dominant with red makes a lot of sense, where you do it definitely more than just once or twice a year. I mean, I think you're talking about maybe a three, and then a white out, and that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. Navy should become the maybe once every 2 years color. I mean, powder, red, white, they're good. They pop. It works with our crowd. We play in the daylight a lot. You and Neil have hammered that home. I actually think you're right about that. I'd never heard that take until Neil made it, and I actually agree with it. It looked great out there today. It was bizarre that storm popped up the way it did. I mean, there were some clouds out there, but the forecast was clear. And then, boom, all of a sudden, game delay.
Yeah, when I got up this morning, had you told me it was going to be delayed for lightning, I don't know that I would have believed you. Of course, there was Earlier in the week, I had noticed there was some chances of rain tomorrow morning, but I did
Yeah.
not think we were going to get any mess of that today. And now it didn't affect anything other than we were all just frustrated with getting the game over with because it was so long for two teams that had been running football. But no, like, look, other than concessions and stuff, which has got to be fixed in the offseason, you're not doing much to fix it right now in the middle of the year. I thought Ole Miss acclimated itself from a fan base standpoint as well as humanly possible today. I told Brian earlier when the show first started, I thought that was an A plus from the standpoint of simply fans showing up. I thought they were loud. I thought they were energy. I thought they brought things for the
Yeah.
team when they needed it. I mean, it felt big game environment regardless of the sun being wherever in the sky or what time the game started.
No, I agree with you 100%. Students showed up. They were loud. It was good. I'm a little bit of a weather nerd. I did get up this morning and I saw over central Arkansas and Memphis that the forecast called for the possibility of gorilla hail. Have you ever heard of gorilla hail before?
I have not aware of that one.
I'm assuming it's large.
Gorilla hail.
Like gorilla hail is what it called for.
Yeah, because usually we just hear golf ball size or whatever, and then that's
yeah. I mean, and look, golf ball size to me seems like it's gorilla size, but gorilla size would suggest quite large hail.
Huh? No, I didn't see that. And you were fine on the way home. There was no storms packed in there.
Oh, I mean, look, once we got to Batesville, there was not a cloud in the sky. We headed south. We're in Jackson. Yeah, it was fine. We'll be good.
Cool.
But thank you guys. Giving Jeffrey a little bit of a hard time, but all of y'all are awesome. We appreciate it.
We love Jeffrey. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
All right, be good.
All right. Neil told me he was in a spot to talk, so let's give him a shout. See what's going on with Mr. McCready. He has done Lane Kiffin's press conference at this point. My dog is also going to bark in like 10 minutes probably, but we're just going to deal with that for the few minutes that happens and let it be what it is. So just heads up there.
Hello.
Neil, how are you?
Chase, I'm good. How are you?
I'm lovely. Pocket Watch, thanks for the super chat as always. Appreciate your energy there in that one. I appreciate it. It very, very, very much. I was just talking to Mark on the call a second ago. Neil said that they described some of the storm as gorilla hail. Were you aware that gorilla hail was hail that had more than a 3-inch diameter?
Is that gorilla hail G-U-E-R-R or G-O-R-I-L-L?
I do not know if it is animal or warfare. I'm not sure.
It must be warfare. I was today years old when I heard about gorilla hail. That's interesting.
Well, 3-inch hail would be a form of warfare.
That would suck.
I mean, that's something.
Where was that? Was that like near Oxford?
That he said that when he got up in the forecast, they said that storm had the chance of gorilla hail.
Huh? How about that?
Yeah.
Well, like Carson, my son Carson had a soccer tournament in Memphis today. They had lightning delays all morning. Like he was supposed to have played his last game today at 11:20, and I think they're playing right now.
They've had a day.
Yeah. They've had a day. I don't anticipate walking into a great mood.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Are you listening to this Tennessee Alabama game?
I was listening to it there before you called. It was 25-point game, 6-point game.
It's a 6-point game. As we were joking about a minute ago, Tennessee throws a 60-yard touchdown pass to retake the lead 34-28 and then misses the PAT. Playing Alabama, that will never matter. Don't worry. You're good. That point's fine.
It didn't matter in 2014.
It didn't. You're right. But all 63,000 thought that damn thing was about to matter that day.
I sure as hell did.
I did too. Yeah. So I don't know. Alabama's showing a lot of guts here. I mean, seriously. I mean, they're having to fight for their life because Hooker has all day to throw the damn football. I mean, just all day. And,
I mean, look,
and
on
Bryce
one
Young's
hand,
matching and matching and matching and matching and matching.
Bryce Young is special. And on one hand, Alabama's really fallible. And on the other hand, they are a champion. And I don't know which hand wins out over the course of time.
Yeah, I know.
But he is a special player. I don't know what kind of NFL player he is or isn't going to be, but at the college level, he is just a winner. That's what he does. He just wins.
What did Lane say today?
Lane was fine. I wrote 3 things. I wrote a game story. I wrote a column about their running game, which I thought was, it's an interesting thing. We've talked about this before with Kiffin. Everybody talks about, Lane as this pass happy guy and stuff. And really, the one consistent calling card that he's always had is his ability to scheme a running game into effectiveness. And that's what they did today. They really didn't throw the ball very effectively. I think Jackson was 9 for 19 passing. Jonathan Mingo, a week after setting the record, did not catch a pass, if I recall correctly.
That is correct.
Dayton Wade, I think, was the leading receiver. Yet they scored 48 points via defense. I mean, via running game. And that's kind of who he is. They've got these backs, and Jackson Dart was a very effective runner today. They had to put that in. He took some hits, but I thought he was a pretty smart runner most of the day. To me, that's what makes Lane Kiffin great, is that, and I don't think there's any doubt that he is an elite, generational offensive mind, that he's able to find things that work. And even if sometimes it's not very pretty, and today there were times it wasn't very pretty, but they keep pounding at certain things, and finally they get it to break, and that's why they won. And then the other column that I wrote was, this team goes on disappearing acts for quarters, for halves. And Chase, if they keep doing it, it's going to bite them. It's going to bite them. They can't keep doing this in Baton Rouge, in College Station. It goes without saying about Alabama. They can't do it in Fayetteville. They can't do it against Mississippi State. They've got to get more consistent in terms of, they have these stretches where they're elite, where they're great, where they look like a championship team. And sometimes they follow those stretches with these stretches where they look like a very average team, sometimes a slightly below average team. And they've got to eliminate that. You can't be great at all times, but they have to cut the stretches where they're just average. They got to minimize those. And they're getting ready to go to a couple places that they've got to put together a better performance to get out of Baton Rouge, to get out of College Station with wins.
Look, I said it last week, and it's still right this week to whatever extent we're talking about this conversation, is that they allowed Auburn, a downtrodden team, to come back into this game, cut it to 4 points at one point after being down 21-0 and a couple turnovers. And I mean, it was just complete discombobulation by the Tigers at that point in the game. And you keep doing that. And now, look, you got to give Ole Miss credit because they just keep winning games. They just keep winning games. No matter what, they win games. I mean, that's where this program is right now, is at the end of the day, they've got more points than the other team, no matter what the hell it looks like over the course of the matter. But it's what Lane was frustrated about, is put them away when you can put them away, because you keep doing coin flip games and you're eventually going to hit heads when it's tails. And Ole Miss has won the last 3 coin flip games. They're 3-0 in the last 3. At some point, that's going to get you. So when you're up 21-0, make that damn thing 31-7 and put it out of reach. Instead, Auburn dominated the second quarter and outgained Ole Miss, like, I don't know, I had it up earlier, like 145-40 or something.
Yeah, Lane did talk about the way they responded from the lightning delay was very positive. Got a stop, got the ball back, got a couple first downs, ran the clock out, didn't give Auburn any hope. And you can tell that's something they're going to try to build on a little bit. But look, they had to dial up an onside kick. They saw something during the week. They practiced it. Jonathan Cruz was out there on Wednesday in the stadium by himself working on it, according to somebody who saw him. And I saw video, so I know it happened. They saw something, and they went to it, and they did it. But, you can't help but wonder what happens there if that onside kick's not successful. You're only up 7. Now, to their credit, they turned that 7 and made it 14, which I thought was the critical swing of the game, because even though Auburn got back to within 7, they never got closer than that. And I thought that was critical, but you're right. I mean, it's the whole thing. If you keep playing with fire, you tell your kids, stop playing with fire, stop putting your hand on the stove, stop it. And eventually, if they keep doing it, you know the rest of it. Somebody gets burned, and that's how you learn your lesson. And here's the thing. Whether this team is or isn't championship caliber, they're 7-0. They're 3-0 in the SEC. They're going to wake up tomorrow probably ranked, 7th or 8th.
Sure.
And that means you're in the national championship hunt. These opportunities don't come to you every single year. When you have a chance, you've got to capitalize. And the truth is, they have a chance. And so rather than look at it like, you got to iron these things out. You got to get more laser focused. You've got 2 games that if you could somehow pull them out, 3-2 or 45-44, you'd get an open date and get a shot at the king. You get a shot to transform where you are as a program. You're this close to it.
Yeah.
So
2 games against 2 broken teams. Yeah, in different ways.
Yeah.
A week off and go to the ring with the belt sitting in the corner.
Yeah, and throw punches and see what happens. Exactly. And that's where they are. And so, like you said, they keep winning. And yet at the same time, they keep kind of putting their hand up on the stove.
Mm-hmm.
And so they either have to stop putting their hand on the stove and take care of things, or they're going to get burned.
Did Lane give any indication of what was wrong with Dart? He apparently said in the postgame on the radio that he was not 100%.
Just said that he wasn't 100%.
Okay.
Jackson's taking some hits week after week after week. He's a big physical kid, and, he talked about how his dad played at Utah and his mom runs marathons, and Jackson's got a body that kind of can absorb some of this, but, Cedric Johnson couldn't go today. Tried, couldn't go. Jalen Robinson couldn't go. Troy Brown at the end of the game was
struggling.
Yeah, this is a beat up football team that's got to go to Baton Rouge now and has to go to College Station. And these next 2 weeks are going to be really challenging, big time. So I think that's Lane's deal is, hey, when you get a chance, like you were just saying, if you get a chance to put a team away, do it. Make life easier on you. Because I'm being repetitive, but if you can get to 9-0, you get 2 weeks to rest up and take a shot.
Alabama appeared to score the go-ahead touchdown and was called for holding on 3rd and goal. And
you were kidding.
They have another flag, unless they got the timeout. And in the game so far, there's 4:47 left in the 3rd quarter. Alabama has been flagged 12 times for 91 yards. Tennessee has been flagged 3 times for 16 yards.
Oh, and there's a flag there. I just walked into the house and
yeah, a little interesting right now.
Oh, for sure.
Georgia's up 41-0 on Vanderbilt right now. So that line's still in play both ways.
My internet in Vaught-Hemingway was awful today, so I am completely unaware of kind of what's happened everywhere else. I was having to use every bit of my bandwidth on my work. I couldn't do anything else.
Oh, wow, they got a pass interference call. Bryce Young running for his life, throws the ball into the end zone on 3rd and goal, and they get flagged for pass interference.
Yeah, I walked in. I'm ahead of you. I'd seen that before you did. I walked in and saw that as it happened.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, missed tackling was terrible today. Between tackling and angles and the whole deal, is that because of what, or is that just they're playing better competition and that's going to start evening out over time?
Probably a little bit of both. They're all playing some better competition. Look, Bigsby's a hell of a back. Jacquez Hunter's a hell of a back. Ashford's a really good runner. I mean, they're going to get theirs. They got theirs at times against Georgia. But they missed some tackles. They missed some angles. Some of it is that they're getting into some of their depth. You're playing some guys a lot of snaps that ideally probably aren't playing as many snaps. You got that, and then the competition's it's all of it. They got to get better. It's a problem. They talked about it today. AJ Finley talked about it. Lane talked about it. It's a problem. It's something they've got to address. They've got to get better at tackling. They can't keep missing. They can't keep missing tackles like this and expect it not to bite them. Just period. It's absolutely going to.
You mentioned the Mingo thing, the fact they didn't throw the ball much. I thought Jackson was pretty decent for the most part, just managing the game, not doing anything stupid, kind of play. He missed the Heath throw that would have been a touchdown that Lane was very frustrated by. But outside of that, I thought he was fairly okay today. And I know it was schemed from an Auburn standpoint, and they were going to take Mingo away, and they were going to do things down the field, not let him get open. But when you don't play action off a running game that's that successful, and you run for 448, it just made me think the only explanation is that they could run the ball so effectively there was no reason to take a chance.
That's what it was. They felt like they could run it. They obviously could. They did. And look, I mean, you can tell Lane once that thing got tight and it became a one-score game, he switched from, hey, let's beat the hell out of these guys to let's beat these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Get
I'm
out
sure
of
Lane
here at this point.
Yeah, Lane would have probably loved a good 49-7 win to stick a flag in, but when that went off the when they took that off the menu, he said, "You know what? I'll just win the game. Thank you very much." And they did. And they did what they needed to do to win the game.
I'm not going to keep you very long. Kind of last thing, and we're going to talk about this all week, but LSU plays Florida tonight. We think that LSU in some ways is a better version of Auburn. It's Ole Miss's first true road game. It's Jackson Dart's first time to be in a hostile environment or whatever that thing looks like in Baton Rouge next week. The way Auburn played offensively today, though, I thought they were pretty decent. I think that's almost exactly what LSU in some ways will do. Ashford is better with his feet than Daniels is. Daniels is a better quarterback. But LSU doesn't have a back the way that Tank Bigsby is. And it showed you that if you let guys run around and you have to let them improvise, you don't get them to the ground, you don't rush the passer very well, crazy stuff starts happening. And all of a sudden you got to outscore teams. I mean, I thought in some ways it felt like a dress rehearsal that is very relevant for next week.
I thought so too. I was thinking the exact same thing. I thought, well, you know what LSU's plan is going to be. It's kind of their plan every week anyway. It's get the ball to Daniels and let him run around and create things. And that's what he does well. And it's kind of the one thing they do. But, yeah, there's no Tank Bigsby on that LSU roster to just go pound on you. I mean, that dude's a big back now. He's a stud. And, they don't have one of those guys. And then in 2 weeks, what's coming in College Station. I mean, Devin Achane's going to get his.
Mm-hmm. And
they're going to have to stop it. I mean, that's where they are. They've got to get better. Look. They got to get if this team's going to do the special thing, they got to get a lot better on defense in the next 4 weeks. It's got to happen. They got to get healthier. They got to get better. They got to play some teams. I mean, Alabama can run it. Arkansas can run it. Mississippi State can't really run it. That's not the best matchup in the world. I mean, it's a very pro Ole Miss matchup, but they've got some games remaining the rest of the way that are going to be real challenges, right? I mean, like Arkansas gets Jefferson back and they're producing offense against BYU. They can't stop anybody. I just saw the score. But, I mean, you can't – to your point, you also, like, you can't keep playing shootouts and expect to win them all. The numbers tell you that if you keep playing those,
one of these days you'll have the game where the quarterback gets sacked and the ball lays on the ground and they pick it up and they get a defensive score and they win, or they get a pick six on the tip ball. And there was a tip ball today that Mingo just kind of dropped and it resulted in an interception. Those kind of plays happen in shootouts. They got to shore it up defensively. They got to get better. Early in the season, this looked like a really good defensive team. The last couple of weeks, they haven't. They got to fix that.
And they're getting masked some of it because they're so good in pass defense on the edges because of what DeAndre Prince and Igbinosun have been, which is very, very, very good. Just
very good. Elite. Yeah, and teams are like, finally, they look, there's film now. And like Lane said the other day, the other coaches get paid to coach too. Mm-hmm. They watch film. They study Ole Miss in the same way that Ole Miss is going to study LSU. LSU studied Ole Miss. They've got advanced scouting on Ole Miss. They'll study the hell out of these last two games in Baton Rouge, and they'll put a plan together because that's what they're paid to do. And now that you see 7 games, you say, hey, we're not really going to spend a lot of energy testing the edges, but let's test this because here's what works. And that's what's coming. I mean, that's part of the fun of watching a season unfold is after 6, 7, 8 games, you have a pretty decent idea of what a team's DNA is, and you can attack their weaknesses and avoid their strengths.
Oklahoma State still currently handling TCU 30-16. Cowboys over the Horned Frogs right now in Fort Worth.
That's my guy Gundy.
Did you take them today? Did you have them?
Yeah, I took them today. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, he's just winning.
Hey, if the horse keeps running, you ride it.
Dave Doran having a hard time in New York with Syracuse. Syracuse up 17-9 with the ball and driving with 2:27 to go.
Yeah, so. If the National Coach of the Year thing came out today, it would be the guy at Syracuse and Lane Kiffin.
Ooh.
They're undefeated, man. Think where that program was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Michigan no, you're right. Michigan just throttles Penn State today, 41-17.
And we're not giving enough credit. We're not giving enough credit to Jim Harbaugh.
Yes. Alabama has now picked off Tennessee.
So hard to finish them, man. So hard to finish them. It's just so hard to beat them.
Well, I mean, full circle in our conversation on November 12th. If by some chance you get a chance to bloody the lip, you better hit them in the damn jaw.
You can't let up against them. You cannot let up against them. We've watched it all season now. I mean, Texas had a shot, couldn't do it. Even to some degree, Arkansas had a shot, couldn't do it. Fourth quarter got ugly.
A&M.
Tennessee, A&M had a shot, a real shot. Oh my God, what a shot!
Well, they screwed up themselves. They shot their own foot.
Couldn't finish it. Now Tennessee has a shot, and looks like it might get a little difficult for them. I mean, it is just right? But finishing them is so hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, when they're the most talented team, I mean, you've got to, you know what I mean? I mean, at some point, you have to overcome that. Wow, hell of a stat there. Hendon Hooker, first interception in 262 passes.
He's had an amazing season.
No, he's had a Heisman type year. There's no doubt about that.
And he was having a Heisman sort of game.
I get they haven't played Bama yet. The schedule's been much different, but first time Ole Miss is 7-0 since that 14 team went to Baton Rouge at 7-0 as well. This team's going to handle that night better than that team handled it.
The head coach will handle it better. Yeah, the head coach will handle it better than that head coach handled it, which makes me think the team will handle it. I don't think for Ole Miss the biggest issue this week is the pressure of 7-0. I think for Ole Miss this week the biggest issue is health, exhaustion. I think Lane's got to probably dial back some practices a little bit even more. He's got to try to get some bodies healthy, and they've got to try to get down there with some degree of freshness. They are a beat up team. When you watched them walk off the field, I know you'd had to leave so you could do the show, but I was down on the field watching them walk off, and a lot of guys were celebrating and happy. There were a handful of guys that were. It was a labor to get off the field a little bit, and Troy Brown's the one that sticks out of my mind. I mean, he was hurting. He played today. I don't think he did a lot in practice all week this week, and he sucked it up and played today. But he had to come out. You know, Sistrunk was in the thing in the tent. You know, they're beat up.
Yeah, had today been Tulsa, Troy Brown would not have played.
Absolutely not. He wouldn't. I don't think he would have dressed.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. So coveragerebelgrove.com, plenty from that. Observations up. We'll turn this into a podcast. I'm not done yet, but I'm gonna let Neil go here in a second. He's got stuff to do. I guess we miss anything? Was that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it. You have observations. I have a game story with notes attached at the bottom, and I've got 2 other content items up. So there's a lot of material in addition to your show. And yeah, it's look. Here's the one thing I'm going to say. I kind of feel like I'm playing the role of therapist here. I get everybody's picking it apart, but Ole Miss is 7-0, 3-0 in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on this beat 15 years. I've been able to say that twice. 7-0, 3-0 in the league, and there's a real opportunity to go do something special. It's going to be hard, but winning is hard. If winning weren't hard, then you'd see everybody else winning too. But enjoy it. That's all. I sense that there's just this angst, and I get it, but at the same time, I also sense that people are not completely enjoying a run that they ought to be enjoying right now. Because what's this, 18-3 in your last 21?
It's 18-3 in the last 21. That is correct. Yeah, it does feel like as soon as every game ends, everybody goes, "What's next?" It's like, okay, no, have a good day, pour a drink, enjoy.
Yeah.
You beat Auburn by 2 touchdowns, and you were the better team today.
And then my other thing is when people say, and I don't expect sympathy here, I don't. But when people say, why do sports writers like early games? Because had today been a 6:30 kick, you're writing till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
The games, they've got to figure out a way, and I don't know what it is, with the TV timeouts, the delays. I'm not going to say Auburn was faking injuries, but I'm not going to say they weren't. I think that's as diplomatic as I care to be. It's just those injuries just seem to always happen right before fishy. 3rd down.
Yeah.
It was if they were all legitimate injuries, it was a hell of a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got to figure out a way to speed these things up. The game goes too long, and then the lightning delay. Come on.
That was an NCAA baseball kind of lightning delay right there. That was.
Yeah, the sun was out.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, and I'm completely for protecting fans and players and officials and everyone from lightning, for God's sake. But come on.
Yeah.
There's got to be some common sense applied there.
Yeah. 6
minutes to go in the game, and over the next 30 minutes, not a drop fell at Vaught Hemingway. Come on.
Yeah.
I will say this: right as they were getting ready to start back, Ole Miss did the little light display thing with the lights, and I was writing, and so in my peripheral vision, I thought I saw lightning, and I was like, "Oh, damn it!"
And it was
I was so glad
thing.
to look up and realize it was the light flashing or whatever. I was like, "Oh, thank God." Because I could just see them sending them back for another 30 minutes. And I think I was just going to put my head down and cry.
Yeah, I know. Well, because that's what I saw a start time, and I went, okay, I'm not even getting excited until it's like 5 minutes away, because one more strike, and it still goes back to 30 minutes, and we do the whole thing over and over and over again, and here we go. So
yeah, I thought, oh, no, God, no. But it was just Ole Miss doing the light thingy.
Yeah.
So thank goodness.
All right. Enjoy the night. Appreciate it. We'll talk
All right,
Monday.
man. All right.
Later.
Bye.
Neil McCready there joining us on the Raptors Music and Food Hotline. Let's say that. Tennessee should get it back. It's 4th down there. Good stuff. Good game going. Let's take a couple calls. Somebody has one. If not, we'll stop. It's up to you guys for a minute. We're going right at 2 hours now. Something like that. I'll get the number back up. 662-259-7556 is the phone number. 662-259-7556. Appreciate everybody on the stream, the live chats, the super chats as always, as well. Appreciate that. Yeah, if we only get LSU Florida tonight, that's not anything. That's not appointment TV viewing. I mean, it's probably what's going to win, but it's not doing much for me at all, frankly. What do you guys in the stream think? Alabama or Tennessee? Who's winning this football game? There's still any volunteer believers out there? if Jay's still going, I don't know how he's still using words for the most part. Who do we have on the line?
This is Brad.
Brad, how are you?
Doing well. About yourself?
I'm lovely. Good. Just hanging out. It's only 5:30, so not too tired. It's okay. Watching a good football game.
Sure. I don't watch a lot of football, Chase, but I always watch the Auburn game.
Why the Auburn game?
About 15 or 16 years ago, 17, something like that, me and my buddy Dan, we went to an Auburn game at Auburn and was almost murdered.
At a football game at Auburn?
Wasn't at the game. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a sporto. I don't remember much about the game. I remember my buddy Dan saying that it was the day that Bradley Sowell found out his dad was a defensive lineman for Auburn, and it was Halloween, and we went to a bar after the game, and I walked up to the bar to order a drink, and there was a gentleman standing to my left that had a flat top haircut, if you remember, like everybody's grandpa had.
Sure.
And I commented on his haircut, and he pulled a gun on me and stuck it to my temple.
Did you comment in a negative fashion about his haircut?
No, I said, hey, I like your haircut. So he pulls this gun, and it was really loud. Everybody was dressed up, and people started screaming. And my buddy Dan didn't know if he was supposed to panic, run, whatever. And so I called the cops. Somebody grabbed the guy, and then the cops were called. But anyway, the gentleman was detained, and I don't know, it's like you see on TV, the cops came and they wrapped me in a foil blanket for some reason. I don't know what that was about. But I found out maybe like 3 weeks later that the guy claimed to have been dressed up as Walter from The Big Lebowski, and it was a fake gun. But it seemed real to me, pointing at my temple. But so anyway, every year when Ole Miss plays Auburn, I always watch the game, reminisce.
About to say, just to bring back memories? Is that
Sure, yeah. Did get our drinks for free.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and one shot, one beer. That was good.
Of course, one shot, yeah.
Not a lot of callers tonight, doesn't seem like.
We did a lot of. I mean, it's okay. It's a different vibe when we have the solo person and Colin, Neil, and Jeffrey and everything separate versus just kind of hanging out with the banter. Did you watch the game with the wife today?
Yeah. We celebrated 1 year about a month ago, a little over a month ago.
Yeah. How's the year been?
Well, I wish somebody would have warned me about what a year of marriage can do for you as far as weight gain. I felt like my friends should have told me.
Put a little on?
Oh, no, not me. She did. But, we're making it. But it's been good. I won't keep you. I'm sure you have a lot of other people trying to call in, just sharing my Auburn story.
It's all good. I appreciate you calling, checking in. I do remember about a year ago. So don't be a stranger.
Yeah, I called Neil during the College World Series, and he didn't have a lot to say. He just chuckled the whole time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Y'all are all good sports. Talk to the man, we can get a wellness check from any of y'all anytime you want. Call in. We'll hang out. Watch some more games. They play LSU next week. It's a different set of Tigers. It'll be all right. You'll enjoy the 3 hours.
Yeah, when I was a student at Ole Miss, I went to the LSU game, and my buddy Dan said they were playing for the conference championship or the division championship or something. It's the only game I went to all year. It was 2003. And a guy stood up and turned around and he yelled in my face, and he was a bald guy. He had his chest painted and his face, and he had on wings like Batman. and he was painted purple and yellow.
Of course.
And he went to take a swing at me or my buddy Dan one, and I hit him in the stomach with a bottle of Dasani. And anyway, turns out he was there. He was the parent on a player visit.
You need to just avoid going to the games. You get into trouble, have some issues when you actually go to the stadium or go to
but
the town.
The whole Halloween thing, that was at a bar. That,
Yeah.
You know, I can say that wasn't at the game. I will say this about the Auburn field, even though I know we didn't play at Auburn today. Maybe the largest hump in the center of a field ever.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I won't keep you, Chase. Good to talk to you.
Yep. Enjoy the night, Brad. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Yes, that was Brad from IUCA. For those who have been with us for a little while, I did not recognize the number, but I did recognize his voice when he called in. That is correct. We did we were first introduced to Brad for some marriage advice about a year ago. Who's on the line?
What's up, man? It's vibing.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Not much. I'm watering my parents' plants. They went to Florida for their honeymoon, so I had to dog sit for the weekend.
Well, that's not exactly. Yeah, I mean it's.
Huh?
Yes, that was the guy whose wife sleeps on the couch on the wedding night. Yes, that is correct. Doors. Sorry.
That is the exact same guy who fought the kid with karate, and the kid had the legs of a mule? Didn't he
that
say
was
something
right.
like that?
Wasn't it? Yeah, that was that, and that might have been the second call because we talked to his wife at one point too. She called in.
Is y'all? Oh wow.
Yeah, I got deep.
Okay. Yeah, I remember literally. That's one of the first times I've ever watched one of y'all's shows, and I was crying from laughing, and it was because Neil was dying when the dude was talking about karate.
Yeah,
I think that might have been the Tulane game last year. It was freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
that guy needs to call in more.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird, but
all good.
So
what's on your mind?
Judkins All-American freshman team.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. I mean, like I said, I mean I keep noting it every week just because it keeps going up. I mean, and now some of this is, had you given me an over/under, I would have said Ole Miss's career record would have been higher than that. But he is, I mean, just doing the quick math, he's already almost 30% to the career record for 100-yard games for his career.
Duke has a record, right?
Yeah, 14. Judkins has 4 and a 98-yard game.
Yeah, he's gonna break that. Yeah.
I mean, he's 4 out of 7, and basically 5 out of 7 had Lane realized he was 2 yards away.
Yeah. What game was the 98-yard game?
Maybe Georgia Tech.
Yeah, he would have given that to him. I don't know. He might be the most talented running back. I mean, look, I'm only 27. I've been following Ole Miss pretty religiously since about 2007, 2008. So I know Dex, everyone posts Dex, but he seems like the most complete running back. I mean, when you get him in space, it doesn't matter who he's going up against. He's going to be a problem.
I'm going to take a quick aside here. I think you misspoke. You're catching some grief in the stream. Your parents are on an anniversary trip, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah. Did I misspeak? Did I say honeymoon?
You said honeymoon. People had questions.
Well, that's all right. I'm like 4 vodka drinks in. They get over it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a bastard, guys. Take it easy.
It's all good. Look, Judkins is special. And look, Evans was really good today. I mean, Evans ends up with like 135, and we're barely even talking about him. I mean,
and that was that game was so weird because look, it looked like it was going to be just an easy blowout, and then Dart looked really good the first couple of drives. Just the way he managed the offense, he has a tendency. I've been noticing, and correct me if you think different. He used to just make really bad throws. Now I think he just holds on to the ball too long. I think that's it now. That's kind of like his next thing. I think they got to work with him on.
Because he has gotten better at not locking in on the same receiver for the whole play.
No, he'll hit a
It's
check down
improved.
now. Yeah. But I mean, there was one play, and I mean, it didn't matter because he got the ball off in time. I think it might have been in the first or second quarter. I think, God, I can't pronounce his last name, but the color commentary guy that even noted, he was
Orlovsky.
like, yeah, he, and I mean, it was a good point. No one was there, and he was just kind of scrambling, and his only option was throw it up or throw it away, and he just took way long to throw it away, and he took an unnecessary hit. That's kind of, I think, his next step. They just got to kind of get him, but he is getting better. I think he's absolutely getting better, but I will, and look, I like Partridge, or is it pronounced Partridge or is it Patridge?
It's Partridge. Yeah, it's Partridge.
It's Partridge? Okay. I didn't like them going in a 3-man front all game long. I didn't like that.
I didn't like it if you had to stop it. If you had a competent quarterback on the other side that could run an offense with a straight drop back, I think you probably go to a 4-man. I still think that they were in the 3-man because you were just essentially trying to spy Ashford and do anything to create a 3rd and 4 or more, and to keep everything in front of you where there was not some free release blitz thing. Because they were not blitzing because you didn't want to give Ashford a chance to hit some gaps, and Auburn hit a big play. They did not think Auburn could consistently drive the football for the entire game 80 yards on them.
Yeah.
I don't think it works against Alabama.
There was a lot of arms being thrown out on those tackles. I mean, and look, Troy had a bad one, but at the same time, Troy's hurt, so I'll give him a pass on it. But, I mean, that wasn't the only time. They had plays that, they could have stopped, and they ended up gaining 10-plus yards because they were just throwing arms out there on defense. The tackling was really sloppy today, I thought.
The angles were worse than usual. It was almost like they were surprised by the speed and didn't kind of fix it enough or quickly enough. And then a lot of arm tackling. Yeah, I mean, that's what I told Jeffrey when he was on the call. I thought that there was too much Auburn getting 2-3 yards on a carry just because they were able to drag a defender for a little while. I mean, you're even seeing Ashford do it on that last series when had they just sort of met him at the point of contact and made the tackle there, the game would have been over 2 series before it was.
Yeah, I mean, what really annoyed me is because it didn't really annoy me. It's just kind of how football is. If they have a better play call on that first drive when they ran that quarterback sneak on 4th and 1 and they get it and or they kick the field goal, that's 3 points right there. On the drive where I think it was on a 3rd down in our own territory, I don't know if Warren thought Dart was under center or what, but it was just a bad snap. And I think it was like 3rd and medium. They had the potential to drive. And I was texting my brother. I was like, man, we're up 21-0, but it should be at minimum 27-0 right now. And I think Neil pointed out, I caught a little bit of his call. I caught the last bit of him calling in. They can't do that next weekend. Not in that environment. I don't think they can. I know LSU has issues, but that is going to be a very loud, drunk, wild atmosphere. They can't just disappear a quarter at a time. And that's really concerning to me. And the other concerning thing is that, they let Auburn, who has had, issues run the ball, they let Auburn kind of run all over him. John Emery's a really good running back. All my LSU buddies love him. They think he has all the potential in the world. I'm not going to say he's Tank Bigsby, but he can gash you. And then they're going to have to go on the road in A&M. And I don't remember what that running back's name is, but he can absolutely gash you. And then they got to play Jahmyr Gibbs in Alabama. A-Chain, yeah. And then they got to go on the road and play Arkansas, and they have a really good running back. So
they score points and nothing else. I mean, God, the blown coverage.
Huh?
The blown coverage. Tennessee sacked Bryce Young on 1st down for a loss of, 10 or 12. And on the very next play, they blow a coverage, don't recognize a wheel route, and Alabama picks up like 35. Very next play.
Yeah, I took Alabama minus the 9. I'm starting to regret that.
Yeah, they're not going to cover the 9. I mean, they're down 7 right now, but they are first and goal with 10:29 to go back and tie it.
I did take Iowa State to cover. I think they were a double-digit dog. They covered. I took the over in Oklahoma, Kansas, and I took Arkansas. At that point, the spread was a pick 'em, so I just put a bunch of money on Arkansas because I don't think BYU is very good. But you know, I get being frustrated, but at the same time, and what pissed me off is that in that first quarter, Auburn looked like a team that had mentally just checked out, like they knew it was over, and then we just kind of let them back in the game. And that's really the thing, and I think Neil's done a really good job of breaking it down. If you disappear a quarter at a time in this league, you're going to get beat. It's going to happen. And, I mean, they were non-existent in the first half against Vanderbilt. You know, they had trouble offensively in the second half against Kentucky, and then they were en route to a blowout in the first quarter against Auburn, and then they just kind of let it get away from them. But, I mean, the running game's there. I'm really hoping they bring in some new blood at receiver next season. I don't know if it's the receiver's fault this year why the passing game is non-existent. Well, I won't say it's non-existent, but if you get what I'm saying, it's almost. I mean, how many passes did Dart throw today?
19,
Not even 20.
9 of 19.
Yeah, and I think a lot of his completions came in the first quarter, honestly, or his first half. Like I think he threw like 2 or 3 touchdowns, but outside of Mingo and Jordan Watkins has looked good the past couple of weeks. I don't know if he did much today, but I think they really need a guy like Aiden Williams to come in. Like, I don't know if they're going to process a bunch of guys, but I think they need to get some new blood in at the receiver position. But
Watkins was actually their highest receiver from a reception standpoint. He was like 4 for 44. So he caught half of Dart's passes.
Did they throw it to Kyron Heath at all today, or was it just Kelly?
It was just Kelly. I think two targets, 1 catch, if I have it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think Heath's going to be really good in the next couple of years, but he's just not there yet, which sucks because they'd love to have a tight end presence right now. And I'm not knocking Casey Kelly. It's just, Michael Trigg's a lot more athletic than he is. But last thing, I just found out I'm going to the Saints game tomorrow.
God bless you.
So Lattimore, you don't think there's any chance that they win that game?
Well, I'm not saying that. I don't think there's a chance that they're going to make the playoffs. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what's the difference? Lose.
Well, if you have a chance to go to a Saints game for free and just have a good time.
Well, no, I have no problem with you going to the game. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying I would. Look, I'm in the middle of changing expectations. Okay, so yes, you're going to the game simply to go to the game and hope it's a good day and whatever. I'm still coming down off what was anticipated. That's all.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm hoping I don't get too drunk because I may pick a fight with a bunch of Saints fans that I'm getting really annoyed this whole week with these Saints fans that are also LSU fans that are just switching sides conveniently for this week. That pisses me off.
I was talking to a buddy about some of that.
It's annoying. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, that's cool. You can root for former LSU players. Look, I root for every NFL team that has an Ole Miss player on it, as long as they're not playing the Saints. And there's a lot of LSU fans that are just like, well, the Saints are bad, so I just want Joe and them to win a game so they can get closer to – no, get the hell out of here with that. That's really annoying to me.
Yeah, that doesn't count. You can't do that.
No, that's being a flake. Yeah, but all right, man. Appreciate you taking the call.
All right, later, Bob. Alabama on 4th down ties the game. I assume they made the kick. I didn't really see that part. 42-all. I guess they're in Knoxville. Hell of a game today for the CBS Game of the Week, where Ole Miss will be next week for the LSU game with the Rebels. So there's that. Oh, we changed the name. That's funny. No, look, I want the Saints to win. It has nothing to do with that. It's just changing expectations. They're not going to do a ton. That's all. The white V on my neck. I have a polo on under a pullover. Is that what you mean? I don't know. Yeah, there you go. There's a commercial. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Number 9 Ole Miss at LSU. Baton Rouge next week for that. All right, last call. Anybody else want to call in before we wrap it up? We're at 2:20 on the show today. When do we start getting confused on R or what are we talking about? Yeah, Alabama kicking off from the fourth quarter in that one there in Knoxville right now. Just about to kick it. They do have a really good game day when it's going right. I mean, I haven't been there since 2010 or whenever that was Ole Miss was there, but I mean, they do. They've got a good game day. 8:32 to go, fourth quarter. Alabama and Tennessee. Number 3, number 6. So a Bama win, and I mean, I guess Ole Miss would hop them. I don't know how far Bama would fall with a loss. So, all right. Anybody else? I think it's the last thing. 662-259-7556 is the phone number for this one. Oh, KJ's hurt. I'm assuming you mean KJ Jefferson in the Arkansas game. I have not clicked over there since it just went to that game when the delay was on at Ole Miss and Auburn. I watched 5-10 minutes of that before flipping over to Alabama and Tennessee during the rest of the rain delay. All right, so about 8 minutes to go here. Not getting anything else on the calls, it looks like, at least now. Appreciate all you guys. Hope you're all should you take Bama -1.5? Yeah, I would take Bama -1.5 right now, I think. I mean, look, Tennessee very well may win this game, but they've got to kind of prove it to me a little bit. I just think that's the case. Hardman, enjoy your ribs. Hope they go well. If you're on the message board, tell us how you did it. Give us a recipe for that. Oh, wow. TD Bama. Okay. So, yeah, we'll watch the last of that game. Again, appreciate everybody. Hope you have a wonderful day. Pocket Watch appreciate you with the super chat and all you guys that gave that. Thanks to Brian, Jeffrey, and Neil as well. If you're at rebelgrove.com, let's go over there and continue the conversation on the message board and the rest of the night for college football. So, for myself and everybody else who went with it today for me and with me, I appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to you again here on Monday. Wild Turkey Rare Breed, very good. Rebel but skeptical. It's a good one. Yeah, I'm not typically a big Wild Turkey fan, but that's a good one. So, all right. Talk to you guys later.